Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking out a kit that was sent to me from ShowZStore, otherwise known as Gundamit. And that kit is going to be the Motor Nuclear Bing. So this is a pretty big kit. Let's take a look at what we have inside the box first. Kind of tough to get the lid off. And there we go. So the box size is roughly the same size as a Sazabi Verka. So I'd assume the model kit to be around that size, maybe bigger, maybe smaller, we'll see. Inside we do get our manual with this nice art on the front. This kit really reminds me of Exia, mostly because of the blue, the white, and then the head and chest gems. Another cool thing they include in the box is this comic. I don't know if it's called manga in China, but that's essentially what this is. So if you don't know where the Bing's from, it's from the Legend of Star General comic. They include one of the issues. I don't know if it's canon or if it's just like a filler, but as you can see, there's some very nice art in here. Hopefully I'm not spoiling this for any of you. And then you even see the Bing in some areas of it. I think another nickname for the Bing is the Azure Dragon. But let's see what else we get in the kit. Just taking a look at some random runners, it looks like we have some pre-painted plastic here. This is likely going to be for one of the weapons. We have some eye effect parts. These actually look really familiar. Very similar to the eye effect parts that are available for the Barbatos. Unfortunately, one part is cracked right there, but since it is kind of like a random design, it's really not that big a deal. Here we have some more pre-painted plastic. That's pretty cool. It's very clean gold over blue. It actually looks like we have a lot of pre-painted plastic. Here's some parts for the waist and probably the sides of the head. More weapon parts, I would assume, right here, pre-painted. Yeah, a lot of this is painted. That's pretty cool. Looks like it comes with an action base. That's good because there is a dragon model kit that does come with this. Here we have some more nice gold painted parts. Some clear parts right here. Look at that one for one of the weapons. Clear, but it also has like a gray gunmetal overcoat to it. And nothing else exciting from the runners. Here's some more pre-painted parts right here. So yeah, I didn't expect a lot of these parts to be pre-painted, but that's pretty cool. It should give a lot of detail to the kit without having to use stickers, because I don't think there are any stickers in this kit. And we also get this box right here. So if this is what it looks like, it should be a metal frame for the kit. And it looks like it comes in different parts. So we probably still have to assemble the metal frame, but we have several metal parts for it, as well as some plastic parts. But that's expected. But yeah, that's all that comes in the box. The kit, the manual, this comic. We have the metal parts for the frame. I'm pretty excited to start building this. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and start building this, and then I'll come back when I'm ready to review it. So, as you can see, Motor Nuclear has made a beautiful kit with the Bing. I think one of the best ways to describe this kit that relates to some of you guys is that this kit is kind of on the same level as the Zero Gravity Judge. And that kit got a lot of hype last year. So let's go ahead and break it down, and we'll review both of these as two separate kits because in a way they are. First off, the Bing, the Prince of Dragons, based off of a character in a classic Chinese novel called Investiture of the Gods. As you can see, the armor on this model kit is heavily inspired by a somewhat oriental design as well as a more organic and pointy design. It has a good amount of heft to it, and that's due to the metal frame. The difference between this and the Judge is that you do still have to assemble the metal frame, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And sorry in advance if I do a lot of comparisons to the Judge. I just feel like that's a good way to convey some of the points One, because I've already reviewed the Judge, and two, a lot of people in the Gunpla community are pretty familiar with the Judge. Getting a little closer, we do see those pre-painted areas like this gold right here. Those actually show up really nicely on the kit. None of the nub marks are really appearing from where you cut it off the runners, which is a good thing. As you can see, there are a lot of clear part accents, such as right here on the shoulder. We have the red, the cyan, and the green. We have a green chest piece, red waist piece, some more here in the knee armor, some on this backpack, as well as some on the arm gauntlets. And we'll see a little bit more when we get to the dragon model, but all of it is very tasteful. So obviously the looks are very stunning, so we'll take a look at the articulation of the kit. With the head, we don't get quite a 360-degree turn. We do meet some resistance as we meet probably about an 85 to 88 degree turn to the left or right. The neck is on a ball joint, so we do get a little bit of tilting back and forth, but not that much. As you can see, we can't get much of a look up to the sky pose. The arm joints are familiar that we've seen in some master grade Gundams, where they're on a double hinge system, so we can get some bending towards the front of the torso, not so much towards the back side. That's about it for that direction. And the plastic on the inner frame that is mixed with the metal parts is pretty durable, so I wouldn't worry about snapping any pieces off there. We can get a full arm rotation on it, so that's pretty cool. Moving down to the bicep, I believe we can get a full rotation here, just have to be careful with the armor touching. And on the elbow bend, there is a double joint, so we get a 90 degree with one joint, and then probably about, I'd say maybe 160 degree total bend there, but completely acceptable. Then here at the wrist, we do have a separate joint for the wrist itself that can be turned left and right. I think we can do a full 360 degree turn. Awesome. And then we do get a hand that should move independently from the wrist. Kind of hard to see there. And of course it's going to be able to turn because it's on a ball joint. And the hands are pretty plain. We pretty much just get a moving thumb joint with all of the hands that come with the kit. Also on the shoulder armor, we can't get a full lift from the side to the side. There is a decent amount of limitation there. As you can see by how the joint is made, you're pretty much limited by how much this piece of the shoulder armor is touching the torso armor. Also on the shoulder armor, we do have spots where this can fold down. After that folds down, this top part can actually fold down, and it reveals a spot where we can plug an adapter for the dragon head, which we'll show later. Moving back to the torso, we do get a little bit of swivel on this top torso area. Not too much, but it is slightly noticeable if you look carefully. Of course, we do get a little more bend as we get closer to the waist. That lets us get a slight tilt from side to side, which is good. I think we can get a full 360 degree turn. Once again, you just have to be careful about knocking any armor pieces off. With that being said, the whole time I've been filming this model kit, none of the armor pieces have actually fallen off, so I'm pretty impressed with that. And moving on to the skirt armor, we do start to get some limited mobility. The skirt armor doesn't quite meet 90 degrees, but I think it's at an acceptable point. If we look carefully here, the side skirt is kind of on a arm ball joint, so we're limited in mobility there where it can bend up this much, but we also have the ability to independently move it up and down slightly, so that gives it a little more mobility. And on the butt flap, we probably have the most limitation where the armor kind of gets in the way of itself, and we can only lift it maybe about 45 degrees, if that, and it's actually held very tightly in place by the back of the skirt armor right here. Moving on to the legs, we do get a little bit of a pelvic pivot. I don't know if you can see down in there, but there is a slot where you can slide the legs forward a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be limited by the side skirt armor, but we can move the leg up this much. I think no matter which way we put that side skirt, it's always going to kind of get in the way, so this might be the limit of how high the legs can lift from side to side. A similar thing will happen with the front and the back of the leg, where we're limited by the skirt armor as to how much it can bend forward, as well as how much it can bend backwards. Now with the leg out, we can check out the double jointed knee bend, and we get a decent amount of bend in the knee. It's not going to be a full bend. As you can see, there is a gap still right there between the calf and the thigh, but I think for most poses this is perfectly acceptable. You can also see here on the kneecap armor that it does move with the bending of the knee, kind of separates a little bit more as the knee is more bent. Moving down to the ankle armor, it pretty much only pivots up and down, which doesn't really have any impact on the articulation of the rest of the leg. The feet are going to be able to pivot back and forth, as well as turn side to side, limited by the ankle armor. I guess there is a slight limitation of the ankle armor. And we are also going to get some toe pointing downward action, as well as upward. So that's pretty much it for the articulation of the kit. Let's go ahead and see what different accessories we get with the kits, as well as extra parts. So in total with the kit, we are going to get 6 different sets of hands. The first one is going to be this wide open set. It also comes with a thumb that is completely extended. That's pretty cool because in a lot of master grade hands, we have the completely open hands, but it still has a curved thumb. So sometimes it looks a little weird, you know? As you can see, it's not completely extended, but it's obviously not closed that much. And after that, we get an even more slightly closed hand. And just as a comparison, we can see the fingers there compared to the one that's slightly more open. Then we get one of our weapon holding hands. Pretty typical with a trigger finger, even though this kit does not come with any sort of gun. And on the inside there is a tab to attach it to the weapons. Then we have another set of holding hands. This one has the tab in the middle. This one does not have the trigger finger. And like the previous hand, the thumb does start to wrap around the fist. And last but not least, we do get a completely closed hand. Not much to talk about this one, but it is always nice to have. Then we get this secondary backpack. This one does look a little more involved than the original backpack that comes on the kit. As you can see, there is a kind of a booster back here. This does pivot up and down just a little bit. Let's go ahead and pop this backpack off so we can see what it looks like. The adapter is pretty familiar. We've seen that on some master grade kits before. There we go with that. With these fins right here, these can be rotated up and down a little bit, but the main thing they're used for is actually to cover these peg holes right here. And so there's going to be 4 of them, 2 on each side, which we can plug these strange adapter things to. These are able to pivot on a ball joint, so we get a little bit of motion there. The joint is a little tight, but that is not always a bad thing. And so what we can do with this adapter is we can plug another ball joint adapter to the front here. Then from that joint we can plug into part of the Dragon itself. I'm not a big fan of this specific configuration, mostly because the joints aren't really that strong enough to hold up on their own, specifically this backpack joint right here. But just letting you guys know that that is possible. And the last few accessories, and arguably the coolest ones, are going to be the weapons. So first we get this large lance slash halberd slash whatever you want to call it, spear maybe. It has the pre-painted gold parts right here, as well as some pre-painted red over here, kind of simulating eyes of some sort. The gold is really nice down here. We get some accents on this blue part, and there are slots put into the handle that the holding hands can put the tab into to hold them better. So pretty cool weapon. It doesn't weigh that much, so it's not that hard for the kit to hold up on its own. And secondly, we get this broadsword or greatsword, depending on how you want to classify it. We have a slot for the holding hands tab. The handle is kind of extra mechanized looking compared to the rest of the kit, as well as this back area of the blade. We have some gold accents on the pipes back here, which is a pretty nice touch. Kind of helps cut through the darker plastic right here. And of course we have the clear green, cyan, teal, whatever you want to call it, with the gunmetal towards the inside of the blade. It's also kind of hard to see, but there are gray accents right here where there's a piston as well as kind of like a screw. So the cool thing about this weapon is that it's actually modular and it's pretty easy to change out. So pretty much all you want to do to change it is you take off this handle, you put on the extended handle, which also has slots for the holding hands, of course, and you can leave it as is with the same blade over here, or to make it more appropriately a spear, you can actually slide this out and attach this alternate clear part, which turns it more into a spear slash lance slash halberd once again. So similar weapon type, but obviously completely different weapons. So I think both of these weapons are pretty cool. You can definitely get some good fighting poses out of this kit using them. As for extra parts we get with the kit, this is an extra connector for the action base. We have the additional underside pieces for the dragon. We have a nameplate piece for the action base. Some more extra parts for the dragon. These are extra parts for the arms of the Albing. And we have just some random miscellaneous adapter pieces. So we're not getting as many extra parts that we saw with the Judge, but I mean, it's not like we really need them. So overall with the Albing, obviously the looks are very stunning. The painting is pretty on point. Honestly, I wouldn't trust myself to do that much better of a paint job than they already did, which is nice. The color separation is on point. Nothing really has a boring spot. Everything has something nice to look at or some sort of accent. Stability is pretty on point in terms of the armor staying on the model kit. I do wish articulation wasn't as limited at the arms as well as the head. That does kind of limit our poses a little bit, but overall I had a great time building this portion of the kit. I was super satisfied when everything came together, and nothing was really too difficult. In terms of plastic quality, we do see a lot of the same properties that we saw with the Judge, where we have a pretty premium feeling matte plastic. I'm not sure if it's entirely ABS or not, but it doesn't feel like the oily ABS that Bandai typically uses. It feels pretty much exactly like the same plastic that the Judge uses. Alongside that, there is one issue that we do see with a lot of third-party manufacturers, where a lot of the fitment of the armor pieces is pretty tight. So if you do plan on painting this kit, I would advise you to either paint it first or be very careful when you're disassembling the kit, because you might damage a part when you're taking it apart, and when you're putting it back together, you'll definitely want to sand down some of the joining edges as well as joints. That way the fit isn't too tight. I will say that even though the fitment is tight in some areas, I never really experienced a spot where it was tight enough to stress the plastic, so all of the coloration still looks good on the plastic of this kit. And now moving on to the dragon, which I believe the name of is the Qinglong, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. There are a few areas on this particular kit that I wasn't really a fan of, but overall it still looks great and it still holds a pose pretty decently, as long as you stabilize it correctly. So we'll go ahead and take it off the stand, and as you can see, this is a pretty long dragon. I'll take it off segment by segment to better show you the different features. Now the face here does have some of the pre-painted parts, such as the gold, as well as white for the teeth, which is nice. I don't see any paint rubbing off on the teeth, so that's good. However, that might be something you want to be careful of, just to make sure that none of the blue shows on the teeth. We can open up the mouth down here as well as pivot this cannon in the mouth a little bit, and so that'll reveal actually a spot where we can plug in an additional part. We have these flash effects that we can add to the kit. This first piece actually goes around the cannon, it doesn't go in it. Then you could either leave it like that where it looks like there's just fire lightning coming out of its mouth, or you can attach this additional piece, which is just a projectile coming out. And I'll actually go ahead and talk about one con I had with this part of the kit specifically, because as I was showing that, this piece actually snapped off. And that's because some of the joints on this kit are kind of small. So there was a peg here that's probably about 1.5 millimeters in size that fits into a ball joint on this side, and the other one on this left side had actually already snapped off, and I had to glue that one in place. For now, I'm going to go ahead and leave this part off just for the sake of the review, but we'll move on to the joint behind the head. So we can pop this out right here. It actually holds in place pretty tight, which is a good thing. Okay, maybe we can't pop this one out specifically, but I'll get one out. Okay, this is the next joint on the head, and we'll pop this one out. This one's actually kind of tough to pop out too. So this is a pretty simple joint. It's just a pivoting ball with 2 pegs on either side. As you can see, it just goes up and down here. One thing with this kit is we do get 2 options for connecting each of these joints. We can either use this double peg system, or we have an entire set of these ones. The way this works is there's a ball joint on the inside like that, where we just pop it in and it moves relatively freely, and you can do that on both sides. I had kind of a hard time choosing which one I wanted to use. Originally, I started off with this one with the double ball joint. However, one issue I did find is the ball joints would keep popping out as I was posing the kit. So they would easily pop out like that, and I'd have to put it back in place. But the thing is, I do like how this one looks a lot more than this one. However, this one definitely has a lot more stability when you're posing. My advice is if you're actively going to be posing the kit, go for the joint with the pivot instead of the ball joint. And if you're dead set on one single pose, go for the joint with the two ball joints, because that one's just gonna look a little bit better. All right, moving on to one of the body segments. We have 14 of these, and they're pretty much all the same except for a few different things. They're all going to have a white fin with this gold accent around it. That's going to be painted onto this blue plastic, and this lighter blue plastic in the back can pivot up and down. You just have to be mindful of the ball joint that's going to be behind it. A couple segments down and we reach our first one that has legs attached to it. The legs are pretty simple. These actually have a metal frame part right here, but the articulation is relatively limited, I would say. So we do get rotation in the leg around a peg joint. It can also go up and down, probably about, I would say, 70 degrees, 75 degrees. At the bicep slash thigh area of it, you can twist it 360 degrees. We do get a double joint here at this elbow slash knee. I'll just call it an elbow. It looks more like an arm at this point. At the claw here, it pivots at the wrist area. And the wrist pivot is actually going to be connected to this back talon right here. So from the back talon, each of these three claws can move independently like so. So there's some posability in that area, but not too much, I would say. And these fins right here are another area that I did have to glue, because as you can see underneath, it's connected by two pegs. But once again, those pegs are pretty thin, so if you try to pull it out, it might snap on you, so you do have to be careful about that. And the last segment we have is the tail piece, which is pretty simple. Nothing to complain about here. It's just the same thing, but with a few more spikes. So yeah, not much different. One thing I did forget to mention is that on the bottom of each joint, there is underbelly armor, and some of them have a hole for a peg to go into. That's going to be the pegs from these clear parts on the action base. So with those, we actually get additional armor spots with holes. That way, if you wanted, you could replace, say, this piece with one with a hole, and then plug the action base into another spot on the dragon. So in terms of posability for the dragon, there are a lot of options to keep it stable. Along with these additional underbelly pieces, we do get more clear pieces that we can attach to the action base. That way you can either extend these pieces or shorten them if you want to, and pretty much get the dragon into a pose that you would want, as long as it doesn't go like way high up above the action base pretty much. And that's pretty much it for the kit. Overall, I think it's a beautiful piece that'll look really nice on your shelf. If you're a collector of mecha, then it's definitely something to potentially think about picking up. And if you want to start exploring the world of mecha outside of Gunpla, I would highly recommend picking up something like this. Motor Nuclear really blew it out of the park with this design. I think another good thing about it is just the price. So Motor Nuclear had a figure of this that came out previously. It wasn't a model kit, it was pretty much just like a metal frame figure that did come with the Owlbing and the dragon, as well as a few more accessories, and it was a little more embellished than this kit. But that thing was like $400 US, so not personally something I would have picked up, but this kit only comes in at $90. So it's definitely a much more affordable price, and it even clocks in lower than the Zero Gravity Judge. With that being said, despite its flaws, I highly recommend checking out this kit. And as I stated previously, I was provided this kit by ShowZStore / Gundamit for the purpose of this review, but I get to upload this video and show you guys without them needing to overlook it, which means everything I'm saying is pretty much coming out of my own head, and I don't have to cut out any of it. So short and sweet, pros of the kit: it looks great, price is pretty on point, stability is nice, and you just get a lot packed in with how much you're paying for it. for it. The few cons I have with the kit are the somewhat limited articulation in a few areas, the tight fit of some of the armor parts as well as some of the joints, and the small joints that are fragile on the Dragon side of the kit. Those are definitely going to be a con. But none of it is an absolute deal breaker. I still think this kit is very worth it, and I do appreciate that it's a nice homage to classic Chinese literature. So with all that being said, I'm very excited to see what Motor Nuclear is working on next. I've seen a couple of their figures and they're actually pretty mind-blowing, so if they were to turn those into model kits as well, I'd be really excited to pick some of them up. And if you want to pick up this kit or check out more information on it, then I'll put a link down below to the ShowZStore and the Gundamit listings for this kit. That way you can see additional photos and information about the kit. I highly recommend checking out ShowZStore and Gundamit if you are interested in third-party kits, as well as figures like Transformers. And it's important for me to mention that they're also an authorized reseller for Motor Nuclear. Of course, I'd like to thank my Patreons for supporting the channel. You guys have been going strong and I appreciate all of your support. To everyone else, if you want to become a patron or join the Discord or follow me on Instagram, there will be a link down below in the description as well. Alongside those links, there will be links to Studio Gundam Store and HobbyLinkJapan, both great places to buy Gunpla. So if you're looking for Gunpla that might not be in stock near you, make sure you check those stores out. But that concludes the review for today, so I appreciate everyone that made it this far. Make sure you leave a like or dislike for whatever reason. Comment down below what you do like about this kit or if you're thinking about picking it up. And subscribe to the channel if you want to look at more content similar to this. And for now, you guys have a good rest of your day. Pick up a kit and start building.